Each month, I produce a video that tracks the top 10 hottest board, card, and tabletop games of the moment. Inevitably, while I'm putting this list together, there's additional games that catch my eye, but they don't rank hot enough to make it onto the official top 10, so I never get a chance to talk about them. Until now. Because in this series, I'm going to discuss 5 of those recent hot games that, even though they didn't make it into the official top 10, still piqued my interest and caught my eye. So let's check out February's top 5 eye-catching games. In this past month's top 10 hottest games video, I highlighted the upcoming game Aftershock by Stronghold Games, only to actually see its Kickstarter campaign cancelled shortly after posting that video. Well, it's happened again! Another game that had caught my eye, which I was planning on covering in this video, went and had its Kickstarter campaign cancelled as well. Well, this time, the game is Highrise by Formal Ferret Games. Highrise is a strategic city building game in which players construct buildings, collect resources, perform development tasks, and periodically engage in socioeconomic corruption. But not a lot of corruption, just a little bit, a wee little bit of corruption, a sprinkle of corruption, as long as anybody's watching. Highrise had been planned to be a premium title for Formal Ferret Games, but then, about a week into its Kickstarter campaign, CEO Gil Hova realized that this might actually not be the best fit for Highrise, stating that his initial vision for Highrise was to, quote, have a ton of plastic bits and offer a ton of gameplay. Sure, the plastic bits would be expensive, but my hope was that the value of the production would be clear. However, he then, quote, heard from frustrated gamers who wanted to back Highrise but felt the price was just too high. He went on to say, I hate excluding people from my games. It's the last thing I want to do, and yet that's exactly what was happening. I need to make Highrise less expensive. And so its Kickstarter campaign was cancelled. But there are plans to reintroduce a version of the game that replaces all those plastic components and related mechanisms that went with them with less expensive cardboard. And while the component proponent in me is disappointed to see the plastic bits and baubles and pieces go, I actually do appreciate and understand the tough decision that Gil had to make. And I'm still looking forward to Highrise version 2.0. Higher Rise. Rise Higher? The new version, which is planned to relaunch a new campaign in the near future. A few weeks ago, a game that I was initially introduced to at Gen Con briefly popped back onto the hotness list, and I was reminded of why I liked this game so much in the first place. And that game is Lost City Rivals, right here. Now, similar to the original Lost Cities, players collect colored expedition and wager cards and place them in ascending order in their personal tableau in front of them on the table, which will score them points at the end of the game. But in Lost City Rivals, players will have to win auctions in order to collect the cards that they'll add to their tableaus. The game features a simple but really fun auction and set collection system, so it's a game that is definitely worth a second look if you missed it the first time around. And speaking of last year's Gen Con, a surprise hit from that convention was Villainous. Fun game, weird box texture. Regardless though, it was a sleeper hit of the convention. In Villainous, players take on the role of various wicked Disney villains, each having their own set of abilities, mechanisms, and objectives to win the game. And for those who have been enjoying this game, the first expansion for Villainous, Wicked to the Core, was recently announced. The expansion adds several more baddies to choose from, including the evil Queen Grimhilda from Snow White, Hades from Hercules, and Dr. Facilier from The Princess and the Frog. As in the base game, each player has their own villain deck, fate deck, player board, and 3D character. This upcoming expansion for Villainous is currently scheduled to reach stores on March 3rd. Another blast from the past that crossed the hotness path this last month was Hyperborea, wow that sentence was hard to say, which was published back in 2014. Now, I scooped up Hyperborea when it first hit store shelves way back in 2014, and it remains on my shelves to this day, but it sits there as one of those games that I always think, I should play that more. But it always ends up getting overshadowed by the newer, shinier, other games that spring up all the time. Hyperborea is a light bag-building civilization game for 2 to 6 in which players lead a small kingdom into unexplored lands. An expansion for Hyperborea, called Light and Shadow, was released in 2016. Unfortunately, this expansion came and went before I was even aware of it. Otherwise, I would have scooped it up as well. It was an unexpected surprise to see Hyperborea pop onto the hotness list last month, even if it was just temporary. But it got me thinking about this game again. So I'm wondering, do you own Hyperborea or its expansion? And if you do you still manage to get this game to the table? In the comments, let me know if you think Hyperborea is worth its rekindled interest on the hotness list, or which other games from 5 or more years ago you think are really deserving of a second wind. And now, Deadmans Cabal, an upcoming action movement and programming game from Pandasaurus. Now, it wasn't this game's name or its designer pedigree or even its artwork that caused it to catch my eye this month, but instead, something that's never happened before, its description on its Board Game Geek page. I guess it worked. The game's description declares that you have conquered death and mastered all 9 dimensions of space-time. Reality bends to your every whim and desire. You, yes you, are the absolute best there has ever been, a necromancer at the top of their game. The only downside is that no one likes you, on account of the creeping around with dead bodies and lack of sunlight and all that other stuff that goes along with necromancy. But who needs friends when you can make them? Because in this game, 2 to 4 somewhat lonely necromancers compete to bring the dead back to life so they can throw a party with actual guests showing up. This game sounds sad, gruesome, and wonderful all at the same time. Now, Deadmans Cabal isn't scheduled to arrive until June, so there's not a lot more in the way of information or images about the game available yet. Even so, though, it's already got me intrigued enough that I am going to try and hunt it down and check it out at the upcoming conventions that are coming up this spring. That's when they're coming up, this spring. And if this is a game that makes so much noise that it could wake the dead, well, I'll be sure to let you know. So there's my list of 5 games that recently caught my eye and why they did. Have any of these games been on your radar too? If so, or if not, let me know down in the comments. And for more board game news and countdowns and videos and stuff like that, be sure to subscribe and turn on the little notifications to be alerted of future videos and live events. Until next time, I've been Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise. Thanks for watching, and take care. Each month, I produce a video that tracks the top 10 hottest board, card, and tabletop games. And inevitably, I forget to turn on my teleprompter. Click. Now the words will scroll by as I say them, which will make the video much more interesting to watch. And place them in ascending order in their little personal plateau, tableau plateau, a little plateau on the table that they'll build a plateau on.